Ryan Reynolds trades his red suit for a blue button-up in Free Guy, the latest theatrical release from 20th Century Fox. Oh, right. I still gotta get used to that. The latest theatrical release from Disney's 20th Century Studios. Is that better? Yeah? Okay, moving on. Ryan plays a background non-playable character named Guy in an open-world game called Free City, an online MMO similar to Grand Theft Auto or Saints Row, a game where chaos is the currency and hurting pedestrians is just your average Tuesday. But when this lowly bank teller gains sentience and goes from NPC to an active player, the outside world takes notice as developers try to uncover who Guy is and how he's breaking their game. So, off the bat, this premise is amazing. Sure, one can compare the idea to Wreck-It Ralph, where instead of the villain breaking out of their role, it's an NPC, but there's so much more that differentiates Free Guy into its own entity. In Wreck-It Ralph, everyone already knows they're in a game, but not in Free Guy. There's a bigger focus on the outside world and how they perceive what's going on in Free City, and a mindset of an NPC versus, say, a bad guy creates new dynamics. This makes Free Guy a movie that's far more unique than it is derivative from any other video game-inspired movie of the past. And what helps here too is that this movie really does understand this modern era of gaming. It understands the business practices, mechanics, structure, terminology, and culture of today's video game landscape. That level of authenticity makes Free Guy all the more enjoyable for gamers like me, but it doesn't go too far down the rabbit hole where it'd confuse and alienate outsiders who are simply here for Ryan Reynolds being funny. Going back to the Wreck-It Ralph comparison, the director of that movie, Rich Moore, wanted it to be a love letter and tribute to the video games of old, arcade titles and icons of the 80s and early 90s. In that same vein, Free Guy is a loving homage to gaming today, and all the gameplay, culture, and memes that make it. It's a celebration for how far gaming has come as a medium, and the importance of these digital champions who resonate with us after all these years. Even the little guys, like the NPCs, we all have NPCs we love, be it a mushroom always telling us our princess is in another castle, or a fellow downed soldier on the battlefield. Free Guy highlights those aspects that only we gamers know, and shares it with the world, almost like how Guy himself makes a name for him in this film. Oh, and we have the actual movie's quality itself, of course, which is fantastic. It's incredibly funny. All the actors bounce off each other brilliantly, where there's not a single one who falls flat. Guy is such an endearingly naive character, but he isn't stupid either. Just a perfect balance of a carnival-esque everyman you can't help but fall in love with from frame one. The dialogue and editing? Well-timed, well-paced, and dripping with charm. Visual effects? Great attention to detail. Even in the game world, while it is live action they are for our sake, when you see the game from the perspective of the real world, it uses computer-generated characters that look just uncanny enough to resemble real in-game models. And best of all, there's a strong, surprising amount of heart that acts as the center of the movie, and how it weaves together the two worlds both thematically and plot-wise will leave you all warm and fuzzy inside by the end. And all of this without always relying on copious amounts of IPs to substitute any resemblance of depth or memorability. Ready Player One. There are some cameos here and there, but they serve to amplify the fun of the original world rather than derive and take away from it. The focus continues to be on Guy and his journey, as it should be. Of course, when you're in the real world, the movie especially begins to feel different, because the world is different. And while some may see it as the movie screeching to a halt and hurting the pacing, I see it as a refreshing breather after all the frantic mayhem over in Free City. In fact, it's kinda hard to think about things wrong with this movie. I mean, flaws are probably there, nothing's perfect, but everything is just so jovial and entertaining that any issues pertaining to the movie is forgotten in an instant thanks to a well-executed joke. Maybe one could say the movie goes on for a bit too long, but if a movie is so good, would you ever want to leave it, right? The question is, though, is this movie worth going to the theaters for? A lot of these big movies have streaming equivalents, but Free Guy is solely a theatrical-only experience. Is this something you need to go to the theaters for? Well, first of all, you gotta be safe. If your area doesn't feel safe from COVID, or you're scared, please, by all means, stay at home and do your part to keep the people around you healthy. But if you want some big screen thrills, is all of this worth getting off the sofa and heading to the cinemas? Heck yeah, it is. There's still enough spectacle in this movie that makes it worth the trip, especially near the end. The sound design especially pops with them big speakers. This movie really wants to make you feel like you're in this game, and big screens means big immersion. But no matter how you see it, when you see it, Free Guy is a movie that is absolutely worth your time. It's an absolute laugh riot from beginning to end where almost every gag lands perfectly, but with just the right amount of heart and big screen action to run the gamut as the ideal popcorn flick. And best of all, it serves as a love letter to gamers like us and the games we play. With all this praise, I think it is definitely worth a
smoking sexy style!
And if you like this video, how we play a little game ourselves called Press the Subscribe button. And I'll see you on the other side of the movie screen.